So welcome back everyone, Mike here. It is Easter Sunday and I hope everybody's having just a wonderful day. Now last week Melissa took one of the cameras and she visited with one of her friends, Linda Johnson. They've been friends for years. Now Linda was originally from England and she moved here to the States years ago, and she's a master gardener. She's a fascinating individual. Anybody that's passionate about what they do and they put in the work, they have my utmost respect, and that's Linda. So anyway, in today's video, it's a little different than what we normally do, but Linda's going to kind of show us all the things she does to prepare for gardening season and all the work that she puts into it. There's a lot of good information here, not only on water collection and composting, but also some good life lessons. Gardening is one of those things where you put in the work now and you get the reward later, and that's a lot of the things that we do here on our property. Even cutting firewood, you're doing all that work now, you're not going to use it for at least a year from now. So many of us, and I'm guilty of this as well, we're into just like instant gratification, and I kind of get that when I cut the grass. It takes an hour or two, you cut the grass, it looks great. But so many of the things we do, you have to put in the work now and you get the rewards later. So anyway, I hope you enjoy Outdoors with the Morgan Special Easter Edition.
Hi, Melissa here. I'm with my dear friend Linda Johnson, and we have some exciting stuff to show you. Linda is a master gardener. So Linda, tell me, how'd you get into gardening?
So I'm originally from London in England, and my mother loved to garden, and also actually my grandparents also had their fingers in the pot, so to speak. I think that gardening is probably a national pastime in Britain, and people really appreciate flowers, and so I became interested in gardening through that. My mother was primarily a flower gardener. In fact, in England, if you say gardening, then you're talking about flowers, and so then people would have allotments, so they would go separately and do vegetable gardening. Here, when you say gardening, people think of vegetables, but I do try to do a bit of everything, so flowers and vegetables and things like that. Once my kids got older, that's when I started doing more gardening. We moved to this area so that the kids had a place to run around and play, but then as they got older, I felt like I could do more gardening, so I got into doing things like that, and then I joined a garden club and became a master gardener, and have just thoroughly enjoyed this particular hobby.
What's so great is Linda didn't just move into this house and acquire these beautiful gardens that you're going to see. She worked, she made them, so there's going to be a clip of that you can see from the dirt foundation up, and Mike will put that in right here. right, Linda, this is beautiful. Here is your what?
So these are my raised beds. So the soil here is very clay, so it's difficult to grow things. So one way you get around that is by putting in raised beds. Okay. And so this actually was the kids' swing set area before. And the vegetable gardening has generally been the bottom of the pile for the last several years because I've done a couple of receptions, wedding receptions in the back garden.
Right.
And also last year did a garden tour. So I was all about the flowers. But this year, one of my focus areas are the beds. And so we have 3 different beds that, for which I have plans, if you wanted to see those.
Yes, I do. So that's important too, keeping the plans, right? And what you're doing next year or what you did last year.
Yeah, and what worked and what didn't. So last year, for example, we grew bok choy and it was eaten by bugs. So this year, we have tried to take care of that a little better.
Good.
And so this bed currently has onions and carrots and the radishes. You can see the radishes coming up. And then in my little enclosed greenhouse area, I have bok choy and crocosima bulbs and also some agapanthus. Those are flowers that I'm just starting a little early and put in the ground. So last year they were just eaten alive. This year they're enclosed, 1, but 2, I've used some sluggo, which is really good for slugs because the holes were so big. I thought that's maybe what they were. And then also sprayed some neem oil, trying to keep it organic so that, because you eat these leaves, you don't want to put stuff on it and then chow down on it. So yeah, that's done really well. On this bed you can see that the peas are coming up. There are snow peas and regular peas, and then we just, built a trellis from things that we had lying around, which is really easy to do. And then when these come out, which they will in May probably, then we'll put in squash and zucchini and things like that in this bed.
And this is your fencing works pretty well with little rodents.
Well, yes. So it keeps everything out except for the deer, who will lean into things. Generally, they don't bother the peas or the tomatoes. They ate the cucumbers and peppers last year. And so, but we are just on a deer path. We have a whole family that lives just back.
That's great. You're feeding the homeless deer. Yes. I appreciate that. Mike Morgan appreciates that come November.
When I used to have just one of these fences up and not the raised beds, in a 2-week period, I caught inside the beds 3 groundhogs, a raccoon, and a skunk.
Great.
Tremendously exciting. That's when I put an electric fence around it, actually, which I used to do for years. But now this works out pretty well. So in this bed, there's nothing on there. I've just put this in so that when I have tomatoes and peppers, I'll put them around it, because the onions are weaving around, and then there's some garlic over there. And I do want to say that these are the best tomato cages ever.
Yeah, I told Mike about that.
Generally, we've done...
You made these.
We did make those from a plan that we found online at Joe the gardener. I looked online because these just do not hack it for serious tomatoes, and I didn't want to be building a teepee out of wood, and so these are cattle panels from a Tractor Supply, and so we cut them down, and you can build from one panel. You can build a tall tomato one, and then a smaller one for peppers or cucumbers or something like that.
Any farm store.
Yeah.
Another thing I noticed that when I mentioned to Mike about this was the ICB totes that he gets, and he uses those to stack his firewood in. So it might be similar when he has to cut open the opening to put the firewood in. We have these pieces that are this big, and after looking at these, it might be something we can incorporate. Okay, I love this. Linda, tell me about your water barrels.
So again, in England, it's very common for people to have water barrels. Rain butts is what they actually call them.
Oh yeah?
I knew you'd like that.
I love it.
And so we have 3.
Yeah.
This one is pretty much dedicated to the raised beds, which are right there, and it really collects a huge amount of water.
Right.
I've actually thought about doing a second barrel over it, but I also kind of, in the summer, it looks delightful. Not so cute right now.
I see. Okay.
But it's possible to put. I put succulents in there, and it looks kind of cute. But
Great.
It's really handy to have water, on site in the areas where you need it, and so that works really well.
And you just got these online.
I got that one on.
Yeah.
Okay. I did. Great. Exactly. And then this is kind of an interesting area just because growing under pine trees can be really difficult. The soil is a little more acidic than it would be, generally speaking. And actually, lots of people are like, "Oh, you can't really grow anything." But
she proved them wrong.
I researched it to see what might work, and we, brought in, basically raised the wall here. I always had, well, I didn't always have. It was a mound and a pine tree to provide some kind of privacy on the deck. Actually.
Yeah.
And then when I decided to try and grow things, we built this wall, built it higher, and then I just researched and put some things in. So the ferns at the back generally do really well. These are hellebores, and they're happy as well in that kind of soil. And so the coral bells do really well there as well. So there are some plants that do like this kind of area. So it just, and I, in the summer I have little ceramic toadstools.
Yes.
I made it kind of a children's area,
Yeah.
so I called it Hedgehog Haven.
Hedgehog Haven, and there'll be a picture of that right here. All right, so like Mike Morgan always says, it's important to have the right tool for the right job, and here we are at Linda's tool shed. Tell us about it.
Well,
So nicely organized.
you should have seen it several years ago. It was a disaster, and I could never find anything. So I thought I have to come up with a system that really works for finding tools, because they could have been in multiple locations. They were often on the floor, under things. You buy a new one,
Yeah.
waste of money. So we had a bunch of this board, which actually was for the deck.
Okay.
And we just stained it. I got my husband to put it up, bought a bunch of little hooks for $1 a pop from the hardware store. Everything is hanging up. I even have little masking tape,
Nice.
names for where things should be. Easy fix, and I can find things now, which is...
That's great.
It just makes my little heart happy.
And you have to sign it out if you use it.
It's like the library.
Right.
For tools.
Melissa borrowed the shovel. All right. Great. Okay, here we are in the back of the property with the compost. Linda, tell us about your compost.
Compost. So we used to have a little plastic guy that produced a small amount of compost. So we decided that we were going to go great guns into composting.
All right.
And it's actually really fun, because you're using all of the stuff that you
Right.
have anyway that most people throw out, like leaves and grass clippings.
Yeah.
Generally we mulch, but so you need brown and green in order to make good compost. And so leaves are an easy brown, grass clippings are an easy green, and you combine them. So this is a 9-foot composter, and so what happens is you start in this bin, you mix up your ingredients. When it got to the top, we popped it over into bin number 2. And then when we started with a new one, when this got to the top, we moved 2 into 3,
Okay.
1 into 2, and so this is the newest one. And if you take a closer look, you can tell.
Yeah.
This is, much bigger.
Right, right.
Exactly. There isn't much of any breakdown. You can clearly see grass and leaves in that combination. This
And
one
that's cool.
is a little better.
Yeah.
And actually, this was really hot the other day when you were over.
Right.
And you have to dig down a bit deeper
Exactly.
now.
I do feel.
But
you
can feel the heat in that one.
Absolutely.
And so it's a little more broken down.
Mm-hmm.
And then this one is the oldest of them. And this, you can tell, is just turning into
Right.
black gold is what it is.
It pretty much is, yeah.
And also,
great.
when you have it's the heat that you need, as well as the organisms that are in there to break down and put. So once you've got this compost, then
Great.
it really helps as a fertilizer for
It
your
does.
flowers and vegetables and other
Yes.
things.
On both gardens. American
And English.
and English gardens.
It helps across the board. And see, these are handy little slats.
Yes.
So you
Great
just
job,
pop those
Carl.
out.
Carl Ladies.
He did. I got plans from a friend and
I love it.
put it together.
Great. All right, this is great. We have some things to show you behind us, the beds, flower beds that Linda's going to tell you a little more about. I want to introduce her daughter, Sarah. I got here to Linda's and was looking for stairs, like I go downstairs and find my way upstairs, couldn't find them, but guess what? Sarah's going to swim in. Yeah, it's amazing the things you come up with. But here's Sarah. Hey! So good to see you.
So good to see you too.
Yeah, so it's so awesome to have that opportunity to just swim.
Yes,
But
you know.
I'm going to let your mom tell us about these beds, and you can also put in your joy and hard work and
Awesome.
pleasure, 2 cents worth. I appreciate it.
They didn't think it was joy when they were kids and they were
Oh, no. Day after school had ended, we always had to work in the garden, and it took forever.
Couldn't do anything until we were in the garden.
Yeah.
And the mulch, when the mulch came, it was like a baby mammoth, woolly mammoth in the driveway. Got bigger and bigger every year. They did not like that. But over the years, you've enjoyed it more.
Yeah, we've adapted.
Lots of things for birthday parties.
So the gardens have a lot of perennials. So I started doing a lot of annuals, which are flowers that you can just have for a year, whereas perennials come back every year. And you can see, even though we're just in the middle of April, that there's a lot of perennials coming up on this bed. This end of the bed is full sun, so different plants would go there to this part, which is full shade. So again, different kind of perennials under here. And then as you go along here, it comes and gets more and more sun. So I supplement it with plants that give me a lot of color, but I love having the variety of leaves and shapes, textures in the garden, which I think are really kind of fun.
And your lights are beautiful.
My lights. Got that idea from Mike Morgan and his 4th of July party.
Yeah.
Where he always has lights strung everywhere. But we've had a lot of events in the garden, and the lights have really been a good thing.
Yeah.
In fact, Sarah, we had your reception or an open house.
We did.
So what do you think of it now?
Okay, well, like my mom was saying, after we had my wedding reception, that's when I really started to appreciate what she had done with the garden. Because early on, it was just us digging holes and weeding, and then Mom did all the cool things. And then growing up, this is where we would sled. This is where we had our swing set and our trampoline. And so I remember when the day she took the trampoline away,
It was a sad day.
She went through
and took down our swing set.
was in
even
trouble.
though we hadn't used it for years,
Yes,
but it felt like this precious shrine to my childhood. So it was like a betrayal that she would take it away. But now, like all the hard work she's done, it's been so clear that this has been such a fun thing for our family. Like we have a fire pit where we make s'mores, and the vegetable gardens, we've made zucchini bread, of course, with the zucchini.
Yeah.
And with the wedding receptions with Joel, my brother, and with me, it's just been so fun, and I've really appreciated it now that you already took the trampoline away.
Thank you. Tell us about this, Linda. This is so fun.
So actually this plant right here is a climbing hydrangea. This is actually doing fabulously well. It started off slowly, but over the years it's done really well. You can tell these are the little blossoms.
Yeah.
So it is a mass of white flowers. And last year it even had a second bloom later in the year, which was really kind of pretty. So this is over the my herb bed. So I have a bunch of herbs. You can see that stuff is growing back. That obviously is not basil.
Right.
I haven't worked on this bed yet this year. But there's some oregano there, and the chives are there, and so there are some things that come back. And I used to have other things like my basil and other stuff there too, but even though they don't necessarily eat it, the critters spend a lot of time.
Oh, yeah.
And they'll break stuff. So anyway, so I have the annuals more. I'm having them on tubs on the deck because it's just easier to keep them away from those lovely animals that just walk around the yard
Enjoying it.
snacking on everything.
Thank you.
They do. They love it.
We have some fresh water.
So yeah,
great.
the rhubarb is out. Look how the rhubarb is
right.
up already.
This is great.
So yeah, there's a bunch of stuff going on already.
And we have another water barrel.
That's right.
This is awesome.
So yeah, this is a fun one. So I can do this herb garden and bed, and then I can go down the sides and around. I've got a lot of hosta in this area. It's like a little Asian area over there. So
sure is.
so it's handy. And then I have one at the front as well. So
Great.
lots of water barrels. Santino, let's come this way. Hey, Santino. Go the opposite way.
So Linda showed us from the side of the house and through the gardens, and here we are to her driveway in the front. So she's going to show us these flower beds.
Well, so these are strictly all flower beds. Lots of perennials because you can see a lot of everything's waking up, which is always such a
it's
happy
just
time
a
of
great
year
week.
when things just pop right up. So lots of things coming up. And then in this bed right here, I generally do a bunch of annuals because you get really good color when you use annuals and kind of plant them in with the perennials.
And it's going to be beautiful. I want to say Linda has been has been...
Well, so last year I was on a garden tour with our garden club, and then a neighbour and another friend suggested that I put my garden in for a local newspaper's garden contest. So I did that, and I was a runner-up.
That's amazing. Coming from Outdoors with the Morgans, where the only flowers we take pride in are the dandelions. And
I always like to think of flower beds as being like a firework display, which Mike will really like.
Yay! Yes, he will. Boom.
Because you've always got something coming up and something dying away, and then other things. And so part of the challenge, part of the challenge of gardening is to have a bed where you've always got some interest.
Right.
By late August, September, I'm done. But I'm all gung-ho in April. I'm ready to go.
So how much time do you think you spend like prepping? Like, this is an important week. You know, Easter's on Sundays, to give you an idea what season this is here in Pennsylvania. And you plan around the weather, of course, but...
Well, I've already actually been out in the garden quite a lot, but I really try hard to just do something every day rather than... One of my mistakes when my children were younger was that I would set aside a day to do gardening, and then I would knock myself out, and it looked great, but I wouldn't go back out again for 2 weeks or 3 weeks because I wouldn't want to do it. Whereas now I just do, half an hour, 45 minutes or something like that every day, and it's amazing how much you can do when you just do a little regularly rather than a lot.
It's outdoor therapy in the garden.
It is. It's beautiful outside. If you come early in the morning, the birds are singing. It just is beautiful to be outside.
Okay, we stumbled on another hobby of Linda's. What is this? This is amazing.
They're all on my kitchen table because I just brought them home yesterday or the day before. Anyway, I left them out to show them to Sarah, but I took up pottery in the end of October, and so actually I've loved doing this. Combining colors, it just really...
they're beautiful.
It really is an interesting hobby. So this bowl I made for my brother
nice.
As a cereal bowl for breakfast, and these ones are bisque, they need to be glazed. But anyway, it just is kind of a fun other little hobby.
Yeah, wow.
But look, Sarah made cookies. She's gone running now.
She's out running. She must have had her share first, and then... she already did the swim and then the run.
Yeah, it's the triathlon.
That's right. Right. Just when I think Linda has overachieved, surprise! She's really overachieved, for real. I just live my life through Linda. I don't feel lazy. I just feel she's very accomplished and she's my good friend. So share with us what you're doing here.
This is generally not a greenhouse, but in the spring I turn it into a little greenhouse. So here we have some seeds that are doing quite nicely. So we've got some celery, parsley. These are oriental eggplants. They're kind of a different kind of eggplant. Carl cooks Chinese food.
Oh, right.
Because he served his mission in Hong Kong, and so he has, a real interest in all things Chinese. So, and I encourage him.
Yeah, here you go. We're great. That's great.
So peppers, and then a variety of flowers, and then over here, actually the basil are doing very nicely.
Wow.
They generally aren't here. But then I have a bunch of, these are for the most part flowers of different kinds. So canna, which are not all season in our area, in our zone, because it gets too cold. So there's a bunch of canna plants, hardy geraniums that I just got, some irises and other things. And I have them stuck upstairs as well.
She does, in her bedrooms. But the canna plants, you said you started them downstairs through the... Or you just take extra care of them?
So I overwinter them. So actually all of these canna were blossoming in my garden last year. And there are some that I ordered from an online company that I can't pick up easily locally. So I overwinter them. So you dig them up, brush off a lot of the dirt, not everything necessarily. I actually put them in boxes with some paper, and then you just spray them. I've had them in my basement.
Right.
You spray them once a month just to keep them a little moist, but not too moist. And then in the spring, I plant them, and from just a handful of plants, I get a huge number of canna plants. And they give you a lot of colour.
Right.
So there are some plants that are worth the effort to overwinter.
Yeah. Now when will you move these ones outside? So after probably Mother's
Day. So I'm afraid of planting the hardy geraniums just because I've got so much in my beds that aren't up yet. I don't want to plant them on top of something else.
Okay.
But the canna need to be when it isn't frost.
Right.
We're past that.
Maybe after Mother's Day.
So probably more like
here in
the end of
Pennsylvania.
May.
Surprise, there's snow. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's tricky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but that gives me a really good idea of what's doing well and
Great.
stuff like that.
I love it.
Yeah.
Linda's the greatest. But I want to thank you so much. This has been great, and hopefully we'll have the next series of the flower
Follow
garden.
when there are things blooming, more things blooming. That would
And
be
all
fun.
of Linda's hard work. It's great. So no one can have her. She's my friend. And we really appreciate it. So thanks so much. And if you like these videos, click subscribe, click the like button, and share them with your friends. Thanks.